Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week with a creator request, this one coming at us from Raphael Weinroth-Browne. He's a fantastic cellist who we've had featured on the channel a couple of times in the past, and you may have heard his cello work with bands like Leprous and Woods of Ypres, though he's also half of the duo The Visit. Let's dive into his latest single, this one called Lifeblood, and see what Raphael is bringing to the table today. Loving the harmony there. Ooh, I thought it was another stack on the harmony, but it's actually the beginning of this lead melody. Really nice way of introducing that idea. Ooh, a little bit of weight. Very cool. A little bit of digitization on this too. Interesting texture on that low note there. Yeah, very cool seeing the stacking up on it. lines coming in on the side. A little bit of texture over there. Nice rhythmic syncopation, building intensity. Yeah, dude, nice place for the harmonic shift too. This is a variation on something earlier in the track, isn't it? Different key, I think. Slightly different movement, but the foundation's there. Really dig the syncopation between the staccato and regular length notes. This again reminds me of the second melody. Although I think in this case it's just that we've returned back to that mode. Very slick. Yeah. Dude, I'm very curious. Okay, so here's the thing. At least my understanding of this anyways. I've kept up with some of Raphael's stuff over the years. And something I've picked up is that he likes to ensure that every sound comes from the cello. You may have even noticed in that second section, the percussive elements came from tapping the different parts of the instrument. and then modified digitally to give more width and boominess and all that stuff. But the original sound came from the cello of some sort. And that final section has some really wild textures to it. And I'm kind of curious how they were made. Some of it I do think is going to be a bit more on the engineering side of things, but what's the original sound that they came from? That's something I'd like to see. I did like the heavier and darker ending, though. I thought that was pretty cool, and I'd love to see him take a crack at maybe getting an electric cello and running distortion through it. I don't know if that's something he'd be interested in, but I mean, the ending of this song really feels like it wanted to go into that metal realm. And I think part of the cool thing certainly is that it feels like metal composition, but not on metal instruments. So maybe actually if it was run through proper, distortion pedals and stuff like that, maybe it wouldn't have actually been as cool. But it is something I'd be interested in seeing. Taking his, modern classical approach to writing and really putting it into a metal scope. I think that'd be an interesting thing to see from him. But this ending here was pretty good too. The heaviness, the weight, the sounds, the almost chugging sound on the bottom with the low end rhythmic idea. Da 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 dun da 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 dun da dun da 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 dun. So yeah, just a very cool way to wrap this up. And honestly, the song's kind of been going in that direction anyways. The thing that stands out the most to me about this track is the concept of escalation. Now, granted, going along with how most of these sections are designed, it almost comes into a realm of being possible through live looping. The way that layers are introduced are, for the most part, one after another, giving you plenty of time to record the first layer, have it loop, and then start working on the next layer. And this was something that isn't coming out of nowhere. I've seen Raphael do this in the past too. A couple of years ago, he made a few videos based around live looping. And it was impressive to watch him build these layers up. And I can hear that same process here in this track. So we have this building up of layers, which is a core part of escalation, putting more things into frame. And it is what seems to be a core element of this song, but maybe from a more practical angle than a musical one. But even looking at the ideas of the song, I would say that the song starts off in more of a traditional, beautiful realm. We push into more and more layered ideas, more aggression. I mean, once the percussive elements come in, there is a very sharp attack at a lot of places in here as you follow that rhythmic groove. But even beyond that, you can listen to the lead cello lines and find a bit more aggression coming in there, where the beginning two sections are more legato based. As we move into the back half of the track, we begin to introduce more aggressive, shorter sounds. We had that really cool low end section too in the middle of the track, about 4 minutes in, that kind of introduced softly, almost as a foreshadowing to the outro, a little bit of more metallic composition in here. With a focus on the shorter syncopated ideas, almost bringing in a soft version of djent into the composition. And then from here, we moved into the 16th note playing section, which is a bit more aggressive of a sound harmonically, but also having this constant attack going on too, very different from the longer legato held out notes of the beginning. The entire song is in constant building. Now, the nice thing about this though is that it isn't linear movement. We don't start small and then as we move through the track, just continue to increase I guess in a sense, the aggression of the song. It's like any good story, has its peaks and valleys, where every peak and valley is higher than the one that precedes it. And so we do have moments where we will reach a peak and then bring this energy down a little bit. Maybe we're going to start a new section, so we have to build those layers up. Maybe we're just going to move away from higher pitched moments that are taking up a lot of space and kind of sit down a little bit on something a bit more groovier and kind of chugging and kind of focus on some low end, not a lot of melody going on, just kind of build an atmosphere for a while. It's still more intense than our lulls before. It is a new high for that, but it is bringing a recent peak down a little bit, and we're going to build out of this. And it's it's a good roller coaster. You don't start at I guess you do start at the top of roller coasters. That metaphor failed. Should have thought about that beforehand. It's like a good story though, of rising escalation, but not constant escalation. And I think this song does a fantastic job of doing that. And at the end of the track, we end on a massive peak. There is nothing else that feels quite like the ending in this track, and everything builds into it, not just through the course of growth and decay of having these rising actions, but also through introduction of ideas. We introduced some of this stuff earlier, the rhythmic ideas, the intensity of it, the percussiveness of it. In fact, the percussion is the same percussion from earlier, which I thought was an interesting technique there. This, I thought, would have been a good place to shift up the percussion rhythm, but instead they continued on with it and even carried over one or two of the foundational cello lines from the previous section into this final one, simply just changing up the groovy part that was played on top of everything, that syncopated idea, and changing up the atmospheric textures on it. It is really cool because it recontextualizes half of what we had already heard in a new light. So I don't know, dude. Everything about this just flows. Everything builds off of what came before it. And there were even a couple of places that I am fairly certain were either recontextualizations or variations of themes we had heard earlier in the track. And I'm always a sucker for writing like that. I love it when melodies, and just any part of a song, honestly, but melodies, the reprise of a theme, when they call back or reference older material. And this song did it, I think, twice. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have the sheet music in front of me to say, oh yeah, this is definitely the theme. But there were some parts towards the end of the song that felt very familiar. So that's my take on that after just the first time listen. Now, the other thing that instantly stands out to me is something that I've always enjoyed about Raphael's writing. It's the reason why I bought an album of his. It's just the melody writing is gorgeous. I love his phrasing. It is just absolutely beautiful to listen to this dude write and perform melodies. And that's not to say that I don't like the stuff that sits under it. It's just that tends to be a bit more functional. We need rhythmic pulse. We need harmonies. We need, the foundation to the song, what's going to elevate the melody. But it's the melodies that always soar. They always take me places. They always define the song for me. And this was no different. The way that he manipulates storytelling through sounds, the way that he builds up ideas and releases tension within them, the way that he has these little callbacks, not just from, two melodies down, calling back to something here, but bringing an idea up at the beginning of a section and then revisiting it later, or using it as a motif throughout, changing it up a little bit here and there, bringing it back in ways that recontextualize it. It's little licks that you can hear as part of a melody, and it's almost as if the song constantly references itself, like a good novel. Everything builds off of what preceded it. Although I guess there are some good novels that are not like that. Anyways, getting off topic there. It's just, I'm listening to these melodies, and here's the thing, like, part of it is that to me they're very familiar. He's definitely informed by many classical composers of the past and even of the present. There are parts in it that just make musical sense to me. Plays a couple of notes and my mind says, well, I'd probably land on this note and hold that out and move a little bit. He does that in a sense too. But there's also parts where he surprises me, and I really love these moments because it creates an unpredictability to the music. There are usually artists who completely stick to traditions and norms. When you have these couple of notes, they are pointing in this direction. You are going to go to this direction. Harmonic chord theory tells you this is where you're going to go, right? You have keynotes and you need specific keynotes at specific points in order to create this emotional flourish. And Raphael does lean into that at times, because the reason that these are well-tread musical ideas is because they work. Like any sort of trope, whether it is narrative or painting or storytelling, music, whatever, it became a trope and overused at times because it's effective, because it works. And so over the course of the thousands of years we've been making music, we have documented things that just generally work. But the thing is that Raphael's not afraid to dip outside of that too and kind of carve his own path and eventually loop back to the well-tread road. And I really love these moments because it makes the entire song, the entire melody writing unpredictable to me. Is he going to put his own spice, his own flair on it, or is he going to return to something a bit more traditional? And since I don't know which way it could go, I never know which way any of the song is going to go. So when it goes in a direction I would normally expect, that feels good. But when he also veers off in his own direction, that feels good too, because he's also a magnificent writer. This dude takes me places in his music, and I've waxed poetically about his work in the past too. I don't remember what the song was called, but I think it was off of his was it Within Worlds album? It's been a few years, so I might be mistaken on that. But the link is up there if you want to check out my reaction to that track. It was also phenomenal. But I mean, this song is no different. These melodies are gorgeous. It feels like soaring through emotional landscapes, and he does it all with a cello, with a bow and some strings, and he just makes magic out of it. Absolutely wonderful stuff. I do have, I suppose, a complaint about the song. That's a weird word to use. I did find there to be a little bit of a lull in the track, too much of a lull. I guess it was about 5 minutes in, give or take. I didn't have the time up, so I'm not entirely sure. But we just kind of chill on this rhythmic cadence on the cello on top, and we have the percussive elements underneath and maybe some chords underneath that, or just some leading tones. We just kind of do that for like 32 bars. And the whole song felt like it was moving towards something, and I really feel like it was moving towards, the ending. Like I said, this whole thing flows well, and then there's just this point that kind of stops the momentum and decides to chill in this moment for a section. I did find myself just waiting. When do we go to the next part here? And after a 4-bar phrase, I was like, okay, this is it. And then we don't. And we repeat that 4-bar phrase again. Okay, this is the one. And that wasn't it either. I know this is an issue of mine, could definitely be a skill issue. I'm not saying this is a problem with the composition itself. I have an issue with standing still in music. I understand that. We have learned that through post-rock. We have learned that through my own music. I don't know how to sit still and just, take in the smell of the roses. Maybe that's what that section was, but for a song that had so much direction and momentum and clear vision in where it was going, it felt kind of odd to me to stop there, so close to the end, and to get stuck. Is that what it's about? Is this song about... It's called Lifeblood. I don't know if I can work the title into this hypothesis, but It does remind me on projects, especially music, where it just feels like it flows out of you. It's so easy to write the song. You can get so much done in a single day. You come back to it the next day, you're excited, you're antsy, you're getting through your work day just so you can get to your music. You get into it and it's just flowing once again. But then you hit a point and the muse is gone. And you're just kind of spinning your tires, figuring out where to go next, and there's just nothing. Maybe there's a destination, an endpoint that you already have in mind, but you just can't figure out how to get there. That's kind of what the song feels like to me. I don't know if that's intentional or not. That certainly doesn't line up with the concept of Lifeblood. But that is kind of what I felt there, and maybe that's the intentional feeling. I don't know. But that was the only point when I feel like I was kind of pulled out of the music and stopped really engaging with it and just kind of waiting for the next thing to take off. But yeah, no lyrics on this, which is pretty typical for Raphael. These are my thoughts then on Raphael Weinroth-Browne's Lifeblood. Absolutely beautiful writing as always. I always dig what this guy's putting out, so I like to keep an ear out for it. Check it out when it happens. I don't know what I'm saying there. I like to keep his music on my radar. What I'm saying. But what are your thoughts? Did you enjoy this? Did anything stand out to you? Is there anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe you have your own interpretation on this track. Put all of that and any other thoughts you might have down into the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Greatly appreciate all three of those. Also, I'm going to put links to Raphael's stuff in the comments, in the description box as well. If you could head over to any of that stuff, if you enjoyed his music, like, subscribe, buy a CD, thumbs up, whatever sort of engagement metric the platform uses, show him some love from the critical reaction community. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.